It's 1831 in Grosvenor Square, and we are just in time for the new social season. We meet the Featheringtons. There are three daughters who are getting ready to be presented to society by their tasteless and tactless mama, Lady Portia Featherington. She is in the middle, forcing her daughter into a corset, which she claims was bigger than the one that she once forced herself into. Meanwhile, in the Bridgerton's house, Lady Violet Bridgerton's children are almost ready. Eloise can be heard complaining about being hot to Francesca and Hyacinth. Meanwhile, Daphne is still not ready. Her brothers are arguing over who will go rush her until Eloise takes it upon herself to shout upstairs for Daphne to make haste. The Bridgertons and the Featheringtons both leave their house around the same time. The matriarchs nod to each other in passing. Lady Bridgerton asks where her eldest son Anthony is, and Benedict claims to not know. What they don't know is that Anthony has Sienna Rosso pressed up against a tree. While he is doing this, he checks his watch. The carriages finally arrive, and Daphne is surprised that Anthony has come on time. Queen Charlotte is sitting in her chair looking bored. Today is the day that the eligible misses will be presented to her. The first ladies introduced are the Featheringtons, who are announced before they enter. Due to their tight corsets, they are struggling to walk. They make it to the front, and after being casually dismissed by the Queen, Prudence faints as she begins to stand. Daphne is announced next, and she enters with her mother. The Queen's demeanor changes, and she stands when Daphne bows. She tells Daphne to stand, proclaims her flawless, and then kisses her on the forehead. A paperboy diligently delivers Lady Whistledown society papers to everyone in town. Our narrator, Lady Whistledown herself, mentions that no one knows her, nor shall they ever, but she knows all of them. The Bridgerton girls are talking about Daphne's presentations. Eloise, however, wants to go and check on Penelope since her presentation didn't go so well. Eloise is not as excited about the presentations as her sisters, and this doesn't even change after Daphne tells her that the better she does, the better chance the rest of them have at their presentations. Lady Bridgerton brings in new dresses, and everyone except Eloise rushes to view them. She instead focuses her attention on Lady Whistledown's paper. She reads some of it aloud. Daphne and her mother are pleased to see that Daphne has been named this season's incomparable a diamond of the first water. Lady Featherington collects the society papers. She believes that Lady Whistledown is Lady Bridgerton. She is speaking with Lady Cowper, who tells her that the papers merely state the truth. She asks Lady Featherington to tell her about the cousin that is being sent to stay with her. She is being sponsored by them as she has no close female relatives to sponsor her debut. Penelope tries to ask her mother to let her sit the social season out like Eloise so she can focus on her studies. Her mother says no, and her sisters poke fun at her appearance. Lady Cowper thinks it may be a bit much to have four ladies out at once, as it may invite competition. Lady Featherington thinks it will be fine as she doesn't believe the cousin will bring much competition. But that quickly changes when the cousin is announced and the beautiful Marina Thompson arrives. Simon Bassett has arrived in town. He is greeted by Lady Danbury, who offers her condolences on the passing of his father, even though she knew Simon hated his father. He's happy to see Lady Danbury, and they head inside. Lady Danbury is hosting a ball that evening, and she has not told anyone that Simon will be returning to town, as everyone will be interested in him. He tells her that he is only in London so that he can deal with his father's affairs. He has no intention of socialising, however, he makes a brief appearance after Lady Danbury refuses to accept his refusal. Anthony is watching Sienna practice in her scales. She smiles when she sees him. Sienna wastes no time in pushing Anthony into the wall. They get a little messy in a room as they are kissing each other. When they are done, Anthony checks his watch, which was his late father's. Sienna wants him to stay, which he can't as he has to escort his sister to the Danbury ball. Sienna asks what the balls are like, and he tells her that she would not like them. When he sees how disappointed she is, he tells Sienna that he will always protect her. Daphne exits the carriage, and she is flanked by her mother and brother. At the Danbury ball, the eligible ladies and gentlemen dance and flirt. Penelope is watching Colin from a distance, who is dancing with another lady. While this is happening, Lady Cowper and Lady Featherington are watching and gossiping. As Daphne enters the room, all eyes turn to her. Lord Ambrose approaches, but Anthony quickly reminds him of his unpaid betting debts. Ambrose bows and retreats, leaving Daphne surprised to learn about his debt. Daphne continues to draw attention as she mingles, but Anthony dismisses every man she finds interesting. They eventually join her other brothers, where Colin shares his excitement about starting a tour in Greece. They spot Lady Danbury and try to avoid her, but she sees them first. She asks if Daphne will be dancing and offers condolences upon realising Anthony's interference. Meanwhile, Marina catches Colin's eye, but neither he nor Benedict know who she is. Lady Featherington tries to put Marina down, but the others aren't fooled. They watch as Colin joins the dance with Marina, knowing she will have a long list of suitors waiting to meet her. Lady Featherington, standing with Prudence and Philippa, spots Simon and drags her daughters toward him before he can notice Marina. However, when they arrive, a swarm of other girls does as well. Daphne manages to sneak away from her brother and heads to the drink table, where Nigel Berbrook quickly approaches her. She excuses herself and walks back to her brother, but on the way she bumps into Simon and asks his name. He doubts she doesn't already know it, thinking she's pretending to meet him while eyeing Nigel nervously as he approaches. Just then, Anthony arrives and greets Simon warmly, introducing him to Daphne. Anthony knows Simon from their days at Oxford and they briefly catch up. Lady Bridgerton arrives to get Daphne for a dance, but Anthony insists it's time for them to leave. He wants to leave the men wanting more. Daphne reluctantly agrees. The next morning, Daphne's already awake when her maid arrives. She's eager to receive her callers. Daphne, her mother, and her sisters are busy with their crafts while waiting for visitors. When someone arrives, they stand, but it's just Anthony, who couldn't sleep due to the excitement in the house and has come to join them in receiving callers. The Featheringtons are also waiting for callers. Their footman announces the callers are there for Marina. Lady Whistledown announces that the true diamond of the season is not Daphne, but Marina, who receives many suitors. The Queen, who hates being wrong, reads the society papers with a frown, assuming Lady Featherington must be pleased to have the incomparable under her roof. The Bridgerton ladies discuss Lady Whistledown's report. Daphne wants to attend events without Anthony, but her mother reveals Anthony has already replied on their behalf and set their schedule through June. Finally, a suitor arrives, but it's just Nigel Berbrook. Eloise tries to stay as a buffer for her sister, but their mother sends her away, and Nigel seems to believe that they are destined to be together. Marina entertains many suitors, one of whom recites a poem for her. After he's done, Lady Featherington ushers them all out, and Colin speaks to Penelope on his way out. Anthony assures Daphne she will have other suitors, but she's worried she's damaged goods because of what Lady Whistledown wrote. She knows it's true because Anthony has scared off all her other suitors. He doesn't understand what it's like to be a woman raised for one moment that defines her value. She must find a husband or be seen as worthless in society. Lady Whistledown reports on Simon's continued presence in London. Simon, however, has no plans to marry, which he's told many others. Simon and Anthony are drinking and socialising at the club. Simon insists that his title would die with him as he rejects it. He then asks Anthony about his own marital plans, implying Anthony can't stay with his mistress forever. Anthony tells Simon that, unlike him, he has brothers. Lady Whistledown predicts that Colin Bridgerton will win Marina's affections. Marina and Colin laugh together while Penelope plays with the dog a suitor gave Marina. Lady Featherington is annoyed by this but knows her husband won't let her send Marina away. Nigel tries to call on Daphne again, which makes her crumple the paper in frustration. At an event, Daphne avoids Nigel. Lady Danbury invites her to join her and the Queen. The Queen quickly leaves and Lady Danbury invites Daphne to spend the evening in her box. Lady Danbury and Lady Bridgerton are gossiping about the King's poor health as they watch the show. Sienna is performing. Lady Danbury mentions that Lady Whistledown has written about her family, particularly the Duke, whom she raised after his mother died. They agree that Simon and Daphne are not as Lady Whistledown describes, and Danbury tries to set up a match between them. As they dine, the Bridgertons discuss who Lady Whistledown might be, a conversation that Simon finds entertaining. As smaller discussions pop up, Simon notices Daphne doesn't seem to be pleased to be seated next to him. They talk about why they know about each other and agree they aren't interested in each other. Anthony is unhappy with his mother's matchmaking efforts, insisting the Duke has no intention of marrying. He thinks Daphne deserves better. Lady Bridgerton has invited them to the next social event despite his objections. She also reveals she knows about Anthony's affair with Sienna, telling him he must decide whether he's an older brother or the man of the house. As Anthony lies in bed with Sienna, he suddenly tells her that he can't see her anymore, as he must do what's necessary. She's upset, reminding him of his promise to care for her. This doesn't change anything, and he tells her to leave. Lady Whistledown speaks of a scandal as the Bridgertons head to another event at Vauxhall Gardens. Colin greets Penelope at the event and asks about Marina, who Penelope says is ill. Cressida Cowper joins them, flirting with Colin and inviting him to dance. She accidentally spills her drink on Penelope. Like, really? Colin turns down Cressida's invitation in favour of dancing with Penelope instead. Simon and Daphne make eye contact from a distance before Simon leaves. Mrs. Varley, the housekeeper, inspects Marina's sheets and realizes something. Lady Featherington is going through her beauty routine when Mrs. Varley shows her the sheet. The crowd watches in awe as a series of lamps are lit. Anthony tells Daphne there's nothing wrong with Nigel Burbrook and insists she marry him. She objects and refuses to listen. Lady Featherington confronts Marina about the absence of blood on the sheet. She would have been happy to have a legitimate reason to kick Marina out, but her daughters would be affected by the scandal. Marina says Lady Featherington could never understand her situation. She didn't want to come to the Featheringtons in the first place. Daphne takes a moment alone to catch her breath when Nigel approaches her. She tells him she'll never marry him despite her brother's insistence. Nigel acts as if he's doing her a favour, grabbing her until she punches him away. Simon arrives just in time and is impressed by her punch. Daphne realises the precariousness of her situation, alone with two men. Nigel half-heartedly proposes to her, and Simon sarcastically comments on the unromantic nature of the proposal. Daphne pretends to consider it as she has no other options. Simon is surprised she no longer has suitors waiting for her and sympathizes with her situation. He suggests a solution that benefits both of them. The crowd is surprised to see Daphne return with Simon. They've decided to pretend to be entangled, making it look like he's found his duchess and ensuring suitors notice Daphne. Lady Whistledown will report him as unavailable and her as desirable. They begin to dance, staring at each other as if in love to convince the others. Lady Whistledown reports on their news, confident she'll uncover the truth behind their sudden entanglement. That's it for the recap on the Bridgertons. Please don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next recap.